Hello and welcome to this special broadcast. I'm Akin Obakeye. It was time for another handshake between the government of Edo State and private investors at the Edo Summit 2022 Alaghodaro. The summit, in its sixth year, has been a vehicle to attract much-needed investment into the state at a time where global headwinds are impacting countries. Since its first year in 2017, the Edo State government has ensured investors thrive in an enabling environment while providing key infrastructure beneficial to the state. But beyond the short to medium-term plan, the government has mapped a 30-year master plan in a bid to boost the confidence of investors.
For us, sustainability is what is important. We know what we have done and what we have achieved today. Our major worry now is tomorrow. What happens in 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 years' time? So that is what we're concerned about. That's why we're working on our 30-year development plan, a master plan, both in terms of how government works and also in terms of the physical space. A lot of work is being done in the area of the 30-year master plan. The other area we have looked at is the area of the economy. And you all know that Edo was described as a civil service state by the time we came in. Today, I do not believe that description is quite apt. Look at the array of investors who have come in here. Look at the number of jobs they have created and they are creating. What the private sector is creating is now multiples of what government used to create. So the future is about the private sector. In terms of focus, we are concentrating on agriculture. And how are we doing that? Just make sure that we remove the risks which people who want to invest in agriculture face. Risk of land, risk of dispute with communities. The risk they face is, do they have quality people that can work for them? So we're rebuilding our colleges of agriculture. We have said, look, let us start and stop talking about what we will do. So last year, between last year and this year, we've given out 63,000 hectares of land to 7 investors for oil palm cultivation. This has been described as one of the largest agricultural programs in Africa today. And it has been a close collaboration and cooperation between government and the private sector. And what we've done is to make sure that we incorporate everybody, including the communities, so that the communities can see the benefit that these investors are bringing in. We used to be the #1 location for oil palm production in the world. And we want to see how we can recover that position in the years to come.
Clearly, translating a vision into goals and outcomes is not easy because, like I said, talk is cheap. But in Edo State, in the last 6 years, we've seen actual examples, right? What I would say, how would I describe it? I would say you can see tangibles, deliverables becoming reality. So it's not just ideals, it's not just concepts, but realities. And you can see it in terms of its GDP, in terms of its education outcomes, in terms of its actual investment. And then don't forget there's a lead time between when you make decisions to implementing them and then having an impact. In 6 short years, we've seen the impact. It's transformational. And I think it's an example that many other states and companies, for that matter, should emulate.
All right, now looking at in terms of one thing most investors will say is the body language of state government as regards policies, as regards sticking to the agreement or the policy or the framework on a long-term basis. Edo State has been able to develop a 30-year plan. Do you think that the political will be there to sustain such plan for the next 30 years?
You see, good things last forever. Bad things evaporate. I think the consistency between the external and internal environment, consistency between success and impact is what will sustain it. So I have no doubt in my mind that as Nigeria transforms itself, as Nigeria moves from imperfect market to perfect market, as we go through this phase of disequilibrium towards equilibrium, Edo State will be a shining example of this, and Governor Obaseki will be a leading, shining light as a leader who has actually not only visionary, but also transformational in achieving these outcomes.
Public-private partnership is the way to go. Government alone cannot do it. They need a private sector. If you look at the economy of Nigeria, you look at our GDP, over 90% is private sector driven. The government realizes that, which is why you found out that a national development plan done, 90% of the investment is going to come from the private sector. So they've done very well. There is much more room. And like one of the panelists did say, the private sector should take the opportunity and work on the opportunity. What I want to plead is that it should not be something that will stop when the Excellency leaves office. It is something that must be sustained and retained. At the NESD, we've done almost 30 years now. And the impact of it is that because the state is a smaller area, I mean, they can meet the needs easily. There is a lot of homogeneity in the state, and it makes things a lot better. They've done very well. There's still a lot to be done. I'm glad, I'm excited about what I see. But my prayer is that there must be continuity.
Beyond the plan, the perception of the private sector remains crucial. How the plan and government action can foster an investable environment. Speaking to some private sector players, we find out if the move aligns with their long-term growth strategies.
Even just looking at the concept of Alaghodaro in itself shows a focus and a willingness of the Edo State government to make itself more marketable and more investor-friendly. So basically, we're at a summit, and here people just come and discuss ideas, and hopefully there are takeaways, and people and governments will implement some of the recommendations. But it seems that what they've done here is that they've taken a summit and they are trying now to institutionalize it as a yearly review of performance in terms of initiatives that have come out from previous summits and looking at the impact of government's plan on its people and its environment. And I think that is probably one of the most resourceful commitments I have seen in recent times. I'm particularly impressed about the commitment to the civil service reform by recognizing its primary role as the engine room of governance and the engine room of government, and making sure that your civil service is relevant to today's requirements, knowledge, and capacity. I'm very impressed with it.
Alaghodaro Summit for the past 6 years have been very awesome, and for any designing investor, it has created an information knowledge platform whereby we're able to network, and then it has also facilitated more like an enabling environment through the government and our own functionaries, what is actually available that investors can tap in by way of benefits and in investing in Edo State. We as a group have found some benefits in this, and as we speak, we are in two major sectors, particularly one in the oil palm sector, and we are also in the aspect of mining value from the cassava value chain. So as we speak, we are one of the investors who was allocated 5,000 hectares of land, oil palm plantation, and we are also one of the investors who, as we speak, I think the first in the state, currently building a 150,000 liters per day ethanol capacity somewhere in Bolivia.
With the successes recorded, Edo State has established the state in the heart of investors, but there is always room for more investment.
We've been able to present Edo as the new destination for business, and we've been able to also showcase the level of security that we have provided in the state. No businessman will want to bring investment to an area where it's not safe. And beyond that, our state is geographically well located for businesses to grow. And one major thing that is our selling point beyond the geographical location is that there is gas and there's electricity. And we've been able to invest huge resources through the partnership with Osiomo. Manufacturing will not be a major problem. You can break even when it comes to business and profit margin. We are not dependent on generator-powered factories. So we've been able to set the template, and that is what is majorly, that's the major attraction to Edo economy. So I'm excited and happy with the turnout, and I'm hopeful that with the presentation and what they've seen today, Edo actually is a new destination for investment.
At the beginning, there will be some form of reluctance, because if you look at the sovereign picture, our sovereign picture is not great as a country as regards attracting strong, patient capital long term. We've been able to attract a number of flyby, but strong patient capital in the last few years has been difficult. So, and Edo being a sub-sovereign will always be overimposed by the national. So any sub-sovereign that wants to attract strong capital must be different and must differentiate itself. Businesses were a bit reluctant, but as they saw Edo improve in creating an enabling environment, an attractive environment, removing multiple taxation, making the ability to get land simpler, supporting your process, building industrial parks, encouraging power so that you can have a concentrated power source. As they saw those incentives and enablers come into place, then their reluctance and their trepidation dissipated.
We've been working a lot with the MSMEs since I took office. We have brought a delegation from America to come and see Edo State for who we are and what we are, so that they can, come and invest in Edo State. We have taken a lot of SMEs to various trade shows as well, and more importantly, we're looking at policies to be able to make sure, like what Haja said, is once this is all said and done, we have policies in place to make sure that this continues beyond His Excellency's tenure.
Looking at the fact that Edo, once upon a time, used to be a state known as a civil service state, and then now you have buzzing MSMEs coming up, the government trying to create enabling environments, infrastructure, power, incentives, tackling multiple taxation. But like you said, there's importance to have that longevity of this whole initiative. But are there strategies in place to see that this thing comes to fruition?
Well, yes. I mean, first of all, when you come up with these initiatives and these programs, you ask yourself, what are the policies that we need to put in place to make sure that this longevity happens? In my ministry, for example, as we look at the various, like for example, the MSME policy and the trade policies, is what kind of policies can we put in place? One of the things we've created in my ministry is this logo called Proudly Edo. Now, what we stand for with that logo is that you will love made in Edo products outside of Edo and within Edo State. Every product that is packaged in Edo State will have that brand, which will be seen as a brand of excellence, which will be, released from the ministry, from the government to processors. In doing that, we must have a policy statement, which will then be approved by EXCO and, of course, the House of Assembly. That becomes law. Once that becomes law and is gazetted, that longevity now, sits in place, and then continuity is expected.
This brings us to the end of this episode of Focus On. No doubt, the Alaghodaro Summit has been a veritable tool for investment in Edo State. Thank you for watching. I'm Akion Bakeye. Until next time, bye for now.